Hello, and welcome to the Silicon Alley Podcast. Super excited you could join me today. I'm William Glass, CEO and co-founder of Ostrich, and of course, your host of the Silicon Alley Podcast. Now, on the Silicon Alley Podcast, I talk to entrepreneurs and top performers to understand what it truly takes to grow and scale a business. You'll get actionable advice that you can apply in your own business and life. Now, on today's episode, I sit down with Kelly Keurzoneff, a serial entrepreneur in the social impact space. But before I jump into what you can expect on today's episode, if you have not already, please make sure to subscribe and follow the Silicon Alley Podcast wherever you're listening to this so that you get notified when a new episode drops every Friday. And of course, if you hear something that you like, please be sure to share the podcast with others on social media, text, email, carrier pigeon, hovercraft, I don't know, however you prefer. On today's episode, I've got special guest Kelly Keurzoneff, a serial entrepreneur and the founder of Givelist. Kelly is an endlessly curious entrepreneur looking for a way to contribute and seeing innovation and entrepreneurship as an avenue for a way to change the world for the better. She loves discussing all things impact, social entrepreneurism, community building, and for the benefit of others. Her goal is to help solve our toughest societal problems and support others doing the same. Her company Givelist is a universal wish list and all-purpose registry. The vision for Givelist is to spread joy and gratitude as agents of positive social change and to build social capital. The Givelist platform facilitates contributing to one another's lives. It provides a space where individuals or organizations can share their stories, experiences, and requests so that others can act on that information to help or share a gift or donation. Physical items, gifts, encouragements, or any other fitting display of kindness, support, and community. So on today's episode, Kelly discusses the importance of social impact and how we can better support our fellow humans, especially in times of need. We talk about a couple specific disasters that are currently happening, and this was recorded in 2020, in the fall of 2020. Kelly discusses the challenges of being a solo founder and how to continue to build your business without a co-founder and make progress each and every day. One quick note though, before we jump in, there were some differences between mine and Kelly's volume that we've adjusted as best we can in post-production. For the best experience, we actually recommend watching this episode on YouTube. It helps when you're actually visually able to see as well as hear. So there's a link in the show notes to watch this on YouTube if you would prefer. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy today's impactful episode of the Silicon Alley Podcast featuring the Kelly Keurzoneff.
You got no time to waste, but still you hesitate. Caught in a circle saying, I'll never leave this place.
Kelly, welcome to the Silicon Alley Podcast. Super excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm actually really excited to be here and I love what you're doing. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we actually connected on Brad Feld's new sort of startup community for people starting startup communities. And I really loved the conversation that we had. You were talking a lot about social impact and investing, and it really resonated with me. So I appreciate you sitting down to hop on.
Absolutely.
So let's start there. Can you talk to me a little bit about social impact investing and why that's super interesting to you and important to you?
Absolutely. I think that we need to have a more holistic view of how we approach problems. And in the past, profits drove everything when it came to entrepreneurs and how they were setting things up. And there's so many more people now, and I'm so excited to see this, that are looking at, is this a sustainable company in for the environment, and is it, how is it affecting, the social atmosphere? And this is such a better way to do business. And, oftentimes it's better for profit. And especially since we're seeing people care more and more about those things, millennial people making decisions based on that. So I'm really excited about the direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's about time that we took a more holistic lens in terms of what our businesses and companies, what should they do beyond just profit and giving money back to shareholders, and serving the entire community. So can you talk to me a little bit about Givelist and how Givelist fits into this space and where the concept for the business came from?
Yes, absolutely. So Givelist is a all-purpose kind of registry. So it's essentially a universal wish list. When I came across the idea, there are wedding registries and they're very efficient. You can see exactly what someone needs. Same thing with babies. But at the time that I was, in full swing of putting all of these gifts out toward registries. I was also at a relatively hard place in my life where I was restarting everything. And, it made me think, first of all, how much less waste would be out there if we could just give people exactly what they needed? How nice would it be if we could normalize people kind of asking for what they need, specifically if it's tools to get a project done or to get somewhere. And also the other thing was, how can we normalize other people's, or make people feel celebrated and supported by the community outside of, the typical weddings, the typical occasions. Everybody has milestones, and I'm really wanting to increase social capital, and I can talk about that in a minute. But really building community back is super important to me. And this, as I looked at it, was a profitable way to accomplish that goal.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it's a really unique concept. I don't think I've really heard anything that's taking this approach to it. So you said you were looking at the wedding registry and baby showers and things like that. What led you to go from idea to actually starting the company, and what was that process like?
Sure, yeah. Honestly, at first I did not plan on creating a company. I did the research and I was like, what's out there? This has to exist. It makes sense. And I didn't really find anything. And, I kind of put the idea on the shelf. I have tons of ideas all day long. And so, I'm busy. Can't make them. I already know I don't have the resources to make them. But what ended up happening was, I lost my best friend of 27 years. And prior to that, she had cancer. And while she was kind of going through it, she was struggling with how to tell people how to help her. And, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking this is a Givelist thing. And, she even just acts of service. People would call her and she didn't have the strength to tell them, if she had somebody to put together, or if she could just put together, hey, there's this list, it comes directly to you. Anyways. So I really started poking around more and looking at what are the possibilities here? Like, what's the model? How does this be profitable? What obstacles are there? Like, who can make this? And I was like thinking of approaching other companies and being like, can you build this? Fast forward a little bit, there was, a couple of devastating hurricanes, and I was really concerned about those as well, specifically Irma and Maria, kind of the back-to-back impact there. And again, I was like, this is something where if someone could make a list of exactly what they needed in recovery, it would be such a big deal. And if you don't mind, I'll just tell you, I just came from Lake Charles, and they're going through the recovery from Hurricane Laura. And we're not really seeing anything about it, but it is devastated. They are devastated there. And right now, there's another tropical storm, and I would say 3/4 of the town has tarps as roofs. Wow. So how that comes to Givelist is, I was making care packages and I was putting things together to go out to people. And people had donated things like high-heeled shoes and like a ball pit for like kids to play in. And I was like, we love ya, but we have a makeshift warehouse, we have to find a place to put these things, So to be able to say, hey, we need flashlights, we need bug spray. People who don't have air conditioning, they're getting eaten alive. They're trying to keep their windows open so there's no mold in their house, and they still don't have electricity to spend a month, and so there are specific things that we really needed, and we want to be able to ask for that. And and people have Amazon wish lists, and that's awesome. But with that, you only can ask for things on Amazon. We really want to include everything. So anyways, they call it the second disaster. Lots of ways of donations that don't apply. So all of this led me to just be like, I'm doing this. Create this company. So here I am.
No, that's really interesting, Kelly. I mean, because when you think about giving, there's usually a lot of times it's money, or it's to the same, large charities, because people don't know exactly how to get money efficiently, or the resources or things that people need to the folks on the ground, because there really is no infrastructure, right? How do you lose your house and you're focused on rebuilding that, and then go ask for support, and how do you facilitate that process? So it's really, really interesting concept.
And it provides a little more transparency as well. And, kind of more of a one-to-one connection. You can build a list for, a nonprofit organization like I was working with Asian Navy and Givelist. But you can also have like individuals just say, hey, we need baby formula, we need this, we need that. And so to be able to see that person, know their story, and be able to send something directly to them and know it's being used, that kind of makes the world a little smaller in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have can you share any specific stories? Are there any examples from the work that you've been doing that really stick out and kind of highlight like why this is so important, and the impact that Givelist is having?
Right. I think, one of the things that we recently kind of sponsored a Givelist for was in Torrance, California. There's a food bank there. And with COVID, they had been kind of cleaned out of everything. And we made a gift list for them, asked them for exactly what they needed, because people need kind of meal in a can or things that are very easy. And some of the street team, like I have hundreds of stories of these things, but the street team goes out and they're the elderly people in their house, and they have like some mustard and some mayonnaise. They're on fixed income, they don't leave the house, especially with COVID. So being able to provide the supplies for the people who know where to go and who to deliver it to, and kind of have a community connection on that level. It's so powerful, and there have been many happy tears and kind of chills and all these moments. So it's really truly as impactful as you can get in someone's life. And I will tell you this: we have, and this actually kind of goes back to social impact. But one of the most, I want to say, impactful things is the feeling of being supported and getting someone who cares, from across the world or from across the country to, so
Yeah.
there are people who, send little notes, even if that's all, just, hey, we're thinking of you, hoping you're okay. And I can't tell you what a difference that makes to people. Sometimes people will send a box of something, and it's the note that really, makes people kind of well up, and that's the human piece. So it factors into social impact in a way of, we talk about our bigger vision is creating and building social capital and community wellness. And I think, there's Brad discusses and many people do the different amounts of capital that we work with. But, social capital, and I'm going to maybe potentially start calling it heart capital, because that's really kind of where it goes. You feel as if you're safe in your community, you're cared about. When you walk outside, you feel like you have neighbors, that your overall, psychology of how you feel you fit into the world is better. And I think, unexpected kindness is one of the most powerful ways to do that, and least expensive, so just facilitating those transactions and bringing people's spirits up and connecting.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm glad that you highlighted the notes specifically, because I think that that's something that, when, at least for myself, when I'm thinking about, giving and the causes that I support, that human connection being almost as valuable, or maybe even more valuable than the actual item itself that could have come from who knows where, but it's hey, someone took the time to write something to me. Absolutely. And they care about me.
100%. Yeah. And that matters, that's kind of the pay it forward principle. You've got somebody that you just kind of reached out to and said, hey, I'm going to uplift you a little bit, and they're going to continue to do that, at least have a better day, and it gives hope. When people are feeling dejected and sad, they don't do it. They're not as productive. They don't do as much. They you know what I mean? So I think all aspects of life kind of get a little better when you feel supported and cared about, and like you're part of something bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's like a perfect way to summarize, how we work as people and human beings and can build community.
Right.
Kelly, in terms of what you're seeing in the social impact space, being very, very focused on it, right? There's no doubt about it when you look at Givelist that's where the company sits.
That's right.
What are some of the things that you're seeing in the space? What are some of the reactions that you're getting from partners, customers, people in the community around Givelist and social impact in general?
It's all positive. It's all. It's kind of like, I actually have another company, and it's a marketing company, and it has taught me a couple things that I leverage with Givelist, and one of them is ROI. When you're doing marketing, you want to get as much as you can out of one single asset or one single campaign, leverage it to the end, and I think we can do that with the social impact where it's like, for brands, people love this stuff. People care about it, and there's loyalty there, and they're able to, eat with, like, Givelist, for example. If Home Depot or somebody was to say, "Hey, we want to contract with you to do all the building supplies,"
Yeah.
there's profit involved in that. There's goodwill involved in that. The people on the other end, it's essentially maximizing so many other factors that will benefit times. It just maximizes benefit.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. And a couple places I want to go. I want to get into some of the brands that you think are doing this well, and then how do we get beyond some of the lip service marketing, which I think, especially when we think about what's happened with social unrest in the country and George Floyd, there's been a lot of companies that have responded, Black Lives Matter, and support the concern, and the real, I guess, follow through is the real question mark around all these issues. I'm curious what your take is on this, and if there's any brands or ways that people can do this more successfully beyond the lip service sort of, we want to support you.
Absolutely. Sure. So, I think there's several brands that have done a great job, but it's, people are smarter now about advertising and things like that. They know. There has been attempts to look the part, and it's come off horribly, because we're better consumers. We're better at knowing, how these things really work. And so I think when you see action, then you believe that something's being done. And this is a funny story from a really long time ago, but Ben and Jerry's, I absolutely love the company, and always had. But I wrote in one time for a grant, and it was for a newsletter we were putting out, doing this big thing for environmental conservation. We were working with the Nature Conservancy and several local places. I think I might have been 19, I'm not sure. But I wrote in for a grant, and I printed it on double-sided, and I sent it off, and I'm like, I'm never going to hear that. And they sent $1,000, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! Like, this is incredible." And honestly, that was a pivotal moment, for me, and understanding that there really are brands and companies and people that will stand behind what they say or will support these things. And so when you see that kind of action, and that's a strange case, but when you see that kind of action, if you're out somewhere and you see these things happening, and I think that's a big place where Givelist is trying to put that forward. If somebody's going to donate to us and taking it to those people, they see the exact results. So I'm trying to think of some great brands. I've always been really loyal to Southwest Airlines, and I know that's not to necessarily say what they're giving or whatever, but it's that they have been consistent about making people feel like they're part of that kind of loved community. And I think the brands that allow people to feel like they're a part, and that they're invested in some way along with the brand, they're included. I think that really helps, and it helps people get advocates. You get people going out and saying, "I don't fly with anyone but Southwest in my case," but and you hear about, like, I think Chobani, the CEO, doing great things today. It matters. It really matters, and especially to people like me. I realize not everybody is to the extreme that I am, but when I hear these things and I actually see things done, I tune in, and I'm an advocate, and I think that's going to matter a lot, especially coming up. I've seen the trends looking like people embracing that more and more.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that loyalty piece is one of the components that goes beyond, the profit of the giving itself. Like, if you're trying to look at it from an ROI perspective, giving back and truly caring and supporting causes that are important to your brand and the community that you've built around your brand, I think goes a long way.
Right, because when you're thinking of advertising or whatever, you're thinking of your audience. And what really matters to your audience is having something useful and helpful to their lives, first and foremost. And if they can see, what you're doing, and that that's directly helping them, in whatever way that is, they're connected, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Kelly, in terms of incorporating social impact into a business, how do you recommend approaching that based on, you know, your experience? How can brands do this well?
So I think with my experience, we weren't sure where we were going to be needed most, you know, and
Yeah.
so we kind of started broad. And I think you hear a lot of people say this, but, you know, kind of narrowing in on what your space is and what you really feel passionate about, and being able to kind of dig in deeper and really connect with the community who's working on those things. You know, it's not just a surface level relationship.
Yeah.
You're really creating something. So if there's a cause specifically that stands out, and we, you know, we have, you know, every kind of cause really speaks to us. But I think what ended up happening just without trying was that natural disasters just have so much need, you know,
Yeah.
and sadly, I worry that there will be more of them. I mean, I'm so scared that people will just tune this out because, you know, we didn't hear anything about Lake Charles really, and I can't tell you what's going on. I mean, it's crazy, and yet there, you know, there's wildfires. It's almost like people don't know where to look. They don't know where to help. And so, you know, there's going to be more and more of the need there. So I think we're kind of in that space at the moment, but we'll see who needs us next.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And there is so much now, especially with you look at all the natural disasters. I mean, it's just, you turn on the news and it's another thing. If it's not a natural disaster and people losing homes, or you know, social justice issues, if it's not women's rights issues, if like there's so much that it can almost become overwhelming as a,
Tumultuous, yeah.
yeah. How do you stay positive throughout all that? I mean, knowing that wherever you look, it's like, we could be helping here, but we only have so many resources.
I think you just said exactly that, staying positive. I mean, I have struggled with not having enough resources since I can remember. And it's one of the things of
Yeah.
being involved in, you know, small nonprofits is they are so scrappy and they can do so much and they are just on it, but they don't have the things they need, the tools, you know. But I think what really comes back to you is, you know, I handed a book bag full of supplies to a guy, and he couldn't stop telling me he loved me. He was like, "I might just die. I might just die." And I was like, but really, like, you know, this was an unhoused man, and you know, he really, I think, like we said earlier, like a gesture of something, you know, really matters. But he was so wonderful about that, and he was, you know, he was kind of joking and being fun about it. But when you see the people, even if it's just one, you know, and we had another woman come in, and she brought in her daughter, and they came in for toiletries, and they saw that we had pillows, and she was like, "Oh, can we have some of those pillows?" And it's like, absolutely, like, take what you need. But the roof fell in their daughter's room, and so she was kind of putting her stuff back together, and the mom got a little, you know, teary. And
Yeah.
you don't have to look for positivity when you see people being impacted. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of right in front of you. So really just looking at the positive, because there's always, you know, something bad happening. It's the people that are, you know, being impacted and people helping. Oh, can I just say this too? This is one of the most incredible things about it is seeing the support that comes in. So this one got me kind of choked up. There was somebody who sent in a little package lights that you could wear around you, like those kind of little Christmas tree lights, but they had a battery. And it was a note saying, you know, keep strong, keep the light. This should help in dark times. And it said, survivor of Hurricane Katrina. And I was just like, you know, I mean, just knowing someone else lived through that and they're trying to help, you know, that is really powerful, you know. So I couldn't be happier to be in this space, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, these stories they're important and they're meaningful and they're impactful in ways that if you're not there and you're not giving back, then you can't see it. So I appreciate you sharing these with us,
Yeah,
because I think it's super, super important. When you think about the vision and where you see Givelist going, can you talk to me about that? And then also I'd love to understand a little bit more of exactly how it works and how individuals or companies or partners can work with Givelist and
sure.
be a part of the Givelist community.
Sure, yeah. So I think we're trying to, I guess our goal is to build something that's truly necessary for people and is actually helpful for them, but is also kind of self-sustaining. And, we want to meet all of the challenges without giving up those kind of core values. But we do see that there is profitability here. I worked in marketing and advertising, and I see when you work with brands that you can move a lot of money and do a lot of good, And so I think, kind of interweaving those two pieces and making sure that, we're true to the vision. That's how we grow. I think the magic of the community will determine that. I think that the employees and the people that are part of Givelist will help determine that. That's really the magic of what's going to happen is, I don't know. It's setting up something that's ready and it's a tool and it can be deployed and then it can be make great things happen, So, there is a structure and plans and, and to that end, we haven't taken any funding whatsoever. This has all been self-funded to date and all based on volunteer work. And I have amazingly committed volunteers, incredible. Have someone who's getting in an RV and bringing her daughter down and going to do some street team care package work. All I had to do was post a couple pictures. And it's like, I'm on it, I'm coming down. So we just have amazing people that are part of it, but we haven't maximized the business side of this yet. And I say that because I built the website and I don't build websites. so we're waiting for our MVP to come out. I think we have like $20,000 more to do it, but we won't be able to really test until we're able to build a profile for someone where they can enter in their own needs instead of us creating them. And it's not just that it frees up time on our end too, because it's a lot of manual work until we get our tech.
Absolutely.
But, that's a hard thing to do. That's a struggle, and like I said, I just jumped into this one and made something happen. I didn't know how or when I might find a co-founder or how I was going to approach the tech. I've done way more than I ever could have imagined, drawing up, doing the wireframes and user journey. And I'm like, this is so much more than I've ever wanted to care about this. But you do what you have to, you do what you can. So I think what we're going to do here is an equity crowdfund. And I am so hopeful that that we can get some funding there. And the reason I think we're going in that direction is because the nature of Givelist is we want people invested. We want people to be, part of the community and get something back from it. Everything, the idea behind Givelist is that everybody who touches it gets something good out of it, whether that's a retailer or a brand or, the people using it or, people just having invested and watching on the sidelines, So the crowdfund, I think, fits that feeling of many people coming in and being involved. And really, it would be the first money that we take in. And so it's awesome and it's scary. And they tell you, when you get this crowdfund together, you're going to want to see some momentum right away. You're going to want to see people putting in right away. Because apparently that it determines an outcome. If people are like, oh, this thing's happening. So that's, I think, our next step in how people could help. We're also, always looking for partnerships and volunteers and, good people with good ideas. And we are very open. We will find a way to make it work. We will create it. So yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And as you mentioned, like self-funding is a challenge. And it sounds like that equity crowdfunding really does fit the model of Givelist and building community. Right. So it makes a lot of sense that you're going down that route. But what was the process to make that decision?
So much. So I had absolutely no idea what I was doing in the beginning, and I was like, the only thing I knew about what was going on in the tech world was from Recode from Kara Swisher and her counterpart, and so they had a retail conference in New York, and I packed a backpack and I'm like, I'm going there. It's just gonna have to push me into growing up and figuring this out. And so I went up there, and I was told by someone, well, you need a VC. That's how this works. And I was like, okay. So, I went down the rabbit hole of what do I do to find a VC and how do I do this? I don't know. And so, I kind of backed into it. Then I was talking to some people in in this Southern California angel investment. They're like, well, you need angel money first. You're a seed. I mean, I did blank slate, nothing. And so I think, you finally kind of find a place where you're like, what makes sense for me? What made sense for someone finding venture capital, fine. But what makes sense for us? We're so early, and I think the concept of just having a bunch of contributors feels right. But we did, look into that a while back, and it was we were told no one will touch you after that for follow-on, rounds, because it's messy and all this stuff. And slowly but surely, over some time, they came up with the way to make it one line item on the cap table, and it seems that people are starting to embrace it a little more. And so, we think that hopefully it's not going to impact us in any way later down the road. That's what we've checked into and been told.
Gotcha.
Hey, it's okay now.
Yeah.
So,
no, that makes sense. And I feel like if listening to Brad Feld and some of the other folks, Fred Wilson, for example, are very much pushing the crowdfunding route when it makes sense, the equity crowdfunding route. Because I think it is a powerful way to raise if you have the right business model, and it can really help jumpstart the organic user growth and build that loyal following that you're looking for.
Well, it's also an amazing way to validate and test if people are compelled by this as much as you think they will be, So you're putting this out there, and if you're not getting any response to it, you might have to, kind of check your fit, But so it's a good way to test and see if there's traction. I think it's a huge show of traction, and like you said, it's a jump start on the rest as well.
Yeah. No, I love that. And so how have you been able, because you've got this marketing business that you're using to help fund Givelist for the time being. How has that been, and how do they kind of fit together?
Sure. I think marketing is my love. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but marketing is psychology, I mean, it is just understanding humans and their motivations and their needs and their responses and behaviors. And I love that. I mean, I'm fascinated with human beings and why we do what we do. So, I don't take on any new clients or actively look for clients. It's totally just focused on Givelist, to be honest, but I do need income. And so it's just kind of word of mouth. People come to me to ask for help with things. And sadly, I have a hard time saying no because I love doing it. But I'm hoping to get to a place where I'm just doing the marketing for Givelist in such a big way. We have so many cool plans that I can't say anything about, because they're stunts, and haven't been done before, and hopefully won't be by the time we get there. But really exciting stuff. And so my marketing company, it really does feed directly into the kind of excitement and getting things out to people. That we will need to do very soon.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kelly, what would you say has been the best and worst part of building Givelist at this stage so far?
Yeah, I think the isolation of being a founder is really tough, because your family, especially if they're not familiar with kind of the innovation tech scene, they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life and career? Like, are you serious? And then you have people who kind of, they're a little bit on board, but they don't really fully get it. You kind of can tell that they're like, when's she going to give this up? You know what I mean? And you don't get to talk to people who are going through the same things. I mean, I was having heart palpitations over this, trademark issue thing that was going on. And then, you want to talk to somebody about it, but nobody's there. So being a founder is lonely, and, especially if you're building something and you're doing it as a solo founder, you haven't found your co-founders yet. The scariest thought is, if I don't do this thing, it won't get done. Like, this thing will cease to exist if I don't add to it actively every day. It's like, I have to feed this thing or it will not exist. So that's really hard. That motivation, that push, that perseverance, especially when you're seeing nothing come back. It's slower than you want, all this. And I've been warned. I read up a lot. I did a lot of research on what am I taking on here. And it was like, if I knew ahead of time, I might not have done it. But it's all worth it, because the best part, to go to that side of it, is there is always opportunities for growth, and I absolutely love that. I mean, I love a challenge. I like to do trail runs because it's not just flat ground. You have to kind of like jump across logs. And my brain loves that. It's like a little adventure. And so I get to try to see if I meet the challenges and how I do, measure my own performance. And so I think that you can't find something as challenging or in the way that this is challenging elsewhere. And I now understand why people do it over and over again, because it's never the same. You don't know what's coming. You have to just adapt. I mean, there were times where I was like, I have no idea about this. And then, a month later I was like, oh, I know stuff. And then around the next corner, no idea again, so it just kind of keeps going. And I love the growth. I love the challenge. I absolutely do. So
yeah, no, I think you've summarized that really, really nicely in terms of, the best and worst part and just the sort of emotions and ups and downs that you go through every day.
So many.
Kelly, I want to, I think this is a really important conversation to have. How do we level the playing field for women in tech and entrepreneurship? As when you look at the tech world, it's very male dominated, very white male, heterosexual dominated. How do we bring women into the fold as entrepreneurs, and how do we support female entrepreneurship?
Right. I love you for asking that. Thank you so much for hearing. It's hard because there's a lot going on and there's a lot being done, and I am so happy about it. Representation really matters. There was a specific, another kind of pivotal moment for me, which was, we had a all hands kind of meeting, and I saw all the execs on stage, and there was one female, and I felt so represented and so like, wow, that's possible. And it's so strange how, your mind is the limitation, and you don't see it, so you just don't think about it for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And, it's like when the way that women think oftentimes is more kind of networky, or, we value different things. We don't compete as much. I mean, we do, but there's different values, right? And
Absolutely.
So when you walk into a corporate environment as a woman, it's like you have to relearn an entire language. You're walking through a door that's made as a square, and you're like a big star, and you're like, how do I get through? But I don't know. I like that I came up with stars. Sorry.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Yeah.
I could have said anything. But anyways, but yeah, what I think is that I absolutely love the men that are advocates are doing so much with just allowing access, and even just one person is making huge changes. But what needs to happen is that the women need to approach their limiting mindsets, because there are certain things we've grown up with where we are more cautious about things. We don't, it's said that women don't get raises often because they won't promote their own good work, and that is something that, kind of we're taught, like, don't bragging, don't, So it totally depends. Everybody's different. Every house is different. Everything's different. But there are a lot of consistent limiting beliefs in women that I've seen, and about their worthiness and their abilities. So if we can, as women, help other women with that, and just have guys, that are like, hey, how can we, make more room for you? How can we? And that's it's happening. It's really great. I love the progress.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for women to overcome those sort of limiting beliefs that society sort of ingrains, and how to approach that?
Yeah. And everybody's, individuals are individuals, but
Absolutely.
There's a lot of self-doubt that I see. And there's so many times where I doubted myself, and I kind of kept keeping that mindset. And later I found out that not only was I right, but I was doing it better than it was being done. Or I always get excited about past Kelly, because she does really, really good work. And sometimes, someone will call me on the spot, and I'm like, oh, did I do all that? I get questioned, and then I look back and I'm like, wow, I did all of that. Like, I'm capable, And so I think just don't doubt yourself. Don't hold yourself back. And that's a thing too with getting into entrepreneurship. I didn't think of myself as a founder. I had absolutely no idea what to do with the thought of being like, oh, you're in charge of this company. And so, just do it, and they say, fake it till you make it or whatever. It's not faking it. just making that step and being brave and stepping into that role and just believing you can do it and everything will follow, you know? So
Yeah.
just do it.
Love that, Kelly. So what advice would you have to someone that was just starting out a new venture?
Mm-hmm.
What insights or advice would you give to them?
Oh, there's so many things.
I know.
You're not going to know everything. And things, even though you make the most specific plans, things are going to change, and your best assets, your ability to adapt is going to take you through and be resilient. And you know, we're entrepreneurs because we like to think of, you know, quickly, and we like to think of solutions. So you know, trust yourself to do that, and you know, don't spend too much time. I overplanned. You know, I put spreadsheets and research and all this stuff before I jumped in, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of wasted a lot of time because you don't know what you don't know until you dive in. You know, and so I think, you know, proper planning is really important, and do research, you know, certain things. And especially kind of knowing where to start and who to talk to, that was huge for me. If I had known that, you know, that there's a difference between an incubator and an accelerator and VCs and angels, like I had nothing. So, you know, do a little research about what's in your community. Local is huge. They're going to help you, you know,
Yeah.
you know, and so kind of start with where your resources are and just get out there and start building.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Great advice. You've got to obviously do the research, find people that can be part of your process. Cause I think that's something that's really important and people talk about in the community is that other people that have founded companies that are in this want to help others. Like if you are an entrepreneur, you inherently love innovation. You love that, you know, building something that's never been done kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think especially for first time founders, that's just great advice. Because you don't know that. You don't necessarily know that. Like,
right. You want to build the thing, you see the solution, but you have absolutely no idea how to get from, you know, A to B or you know, in that span in the meantime. And people know, and they can help you with that, you know. And so ask and find the right ones, you know.
Kelly, getting back to you, when you think about success and what drives you, how do you define success?
So I think that to me, success, there's a certain level of personal integrity. You know, I have to live with myself. No one else does. At the end of the day, Kelly has to say, hey, did you try your absolute best today? And did you do what you're capable of? And if I can say that, and I can say I stayed true to my values, I, you know, met challenges that came to me. I, you know, maintained relationships. I think, you know, keeping your ethics in your relationships and you know, the health of your company or whatever it is that you're building, those things are super important. But you know, you answer to you, and so as long as you have an idea, a good vision of who you are and who you want to be, you know, that guides success. You know, and externally people will say all kinds of things. So what works, what fits for you, you know, and measure to that, measure yourself, hold yourself to high standards, and that's success to me.
I like that. Yeah. It's that internal barometer. It's not the external stuff.
You
it's
know.
what's,
You know, like we all know.
Exactly. Kelly, getting into the personal finance part of the conversation, how would you describe your relationship with money?
So I've never had any. And that just is, that is like, you know, I'm extremely frugal. I'm extremely minimalist. Because, you know, you grow up and you hear your parents kind of, that's a big thing. Like, oh, we can't pay for this thing or we can't pay for that thing. And so you're like, oh, don't be in that situation. Whatever you can do to, you know. And so and my grandmother, you know, she was a Depression era, right? And this woman could make anything out of nothing. You know, you could, I think we played a game for hours with a penny one time, you know, so she was like hiding it. It was just being creative. But the point is, you know, it's not the money, it's how you use it kind of, or it's, you know, making sure that you're kind of making the most important things happen first. And, you know, so I'm extremely frugal. I don't like to have things. It's a lot of liability. But using it in its best place is what I'm after. You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess with that in mind, what would you say is the best investment that you've made?
Every time I can say across the board that it's tools to do a job that I need to do better. It is so frustrating to kind of throw yourself at something, especially as someone who has a lot of drive and ambition, and to be doing this kind of manual process because you're being too frugal. So if I am going to invest, it's going to be in the tools to do the job better. And I have never, ever regretted that, never regretted an upgrade because I knew I was going to need to output more, best investments are tools for me.
Yeah, no, I like that answer a lot. It kind of reminds me of that. What's that trope about, like, if you have an hour to cut down a tree, you should spend the first, whatever, 55 minutes sharpening the axe, and
right? Yes,
and the tools, what's important.
It's absolutely true. Yes.
On the flip side of the coin, what would you say is the dumbest money mistake that you've made?
Okay. It's not a dumb mistake in the fact that I needed to do it. So I had, again, trying to outdo my parents. I found all these things when I was in high school, and I was like, I'm getting a term or a whole life insurance policy. I'm getting mutual funds, And so I was trying to do these things when I was, 18, and I had to cash out several of those things to get my books for college and all this stuff. So it technically was an investment. But it's so hard to see that go. You know what I mean? These are long-term things. And I think, that's not necessarily dumb money, but what it brings up is bad economics. So if, you're borrowing money and it's at a certain rate and you're spending money, if you're not allocating correctly, your bigger investments, you're gonna lose there. So I guess just kind of knowing where things are and if you can, using them as they should be used.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, being able to use the tools the way they're meant to be used.
Right. Well, and I mean, so there was I remember I had to get an apartment, and I didn't have enough credit, and so I had to go down the street to this. I didn't have anyone else to ask. I had to go down the street to this one of those loan places, and I borrowed $250 with the lights turned on, and I probably slept in this place for a week just trying to get past that, but I was like, okay, I'm doing it. And this is all college stuff. But I remember it took me the whole summer to pay that back because the interest is it's like you're just repaying it 6 times, So it's like knowing that that's dumb money, that's bad economics. And so to avoid that in any way, don't take money that you're going to have to pay more for,
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, and hits a whole nother conversation that we could have on payday lending and those types of great, easy, quick money with exorbitant interest rates.
Money is never easy money ever.
Yes, it's easy for the person lending it to you. Let's put it that way. It's easy for them.
Yeah.
Kelly, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing Americans when it comes to finances?
I think being reactive instead of proactive, maybe. So especially now when people are kind of freaking out a little bit, what do I do? If you have sat down and you know your goals and you know what you have, you understand these things ahead of time, you're not in this out of a place, and you can make better decisions. But if you're just reacting, and especially, like you said earlier, emotions are such a big deal when it comes to money, and it can influence your emotions, and emotions can influence how you work with it. And so, being proactive is something people should do a lot more of. And, just being conscious of where things are, paying attention, it's not something everybody wants to do, but if you do that when it comes to disaster time, you're not like, I'm on fire.
Exactly. Yeah. It might seem painful up front, but it's a lot less painful to do it now and have a general idea and a plan than
just in the back of your mind. Like, what is my relationship with money? What do I want it for? What does it mean to me? That kind of thing. Think it through a little bit ahead of time. So you can make better decisions.
I like that. It's great advice, Kelly. Kelly, this has been a lot of fun. I want to leave you with the last word. And so please, whatever you want to leave the audience with, and then also let us know how we can support you, Givelist, where to connect, where to learn more about supporting and all that.
Sure. So I think last word would just be don't hold back. If you have something on your heart and you want to do something good for someone, please do it. Because a lot of people think like, oh, this person, they're not going to want to hear from me or this or that. Like I have seen, you just do it, connect with people, be real, and make that happen when you can. As far as, how to support Givelist, like I said, I think we're going to do an equity crowdfund soon. www.givelist.com will be where to look for updates when we have them. I have a blog post there about the Lake Charles. There is a Givelist where people can donate items that are needed. So if that's anything anyone's interested in doing, or just follow along with the stories and the updates, I'll be making them as we go. So
perfect.
Just care and follow us. Like it's fun and just be part of our party. Like Instagram, just do it.
I love it. Do you have a handle? I'll link to it all in the show notes too, but.
Yeah. So, the Facebook page is just Givelist, but the Instagram is _Givelist_.
Okay.
So.
Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, it's underdeveloped for where it should be, but it's pretty honest.
There we go. Yeah. Hey, that's the authenticity. I think is the most important
part.
What
I can keep up with all the other things happening, but we do want people involved. We want to share what we're doing and have fun with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you sitting down and so glad that we were able to connect.
Yeah, you are awesome. You make this fun. I loved your questions. When this is a great thing you're doing. I'm so happy to be a part of it, and thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. This conversation flew by. I can't believe it's been an hour. I felt like we just hopped on the phone. So.
Yeah, so wonderful. Thanks again.
That's it for today's episode of the Silicon Alley podcast. I hope that you enjoyed the interview with Kelly Keurzoneff. I had a lot of fun speaking with Kelly and hearing her discuss the importance of giving back and the impact that true one-to-one giving has on people. What really stuck out to me is Kelly's determination for Givelist to achieve its mission, especially as a solo founder, and finding ways to build towards that vision day after day. On your way out, if you happen to listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, please click on the show page in the Apple Podcasts app. Scroll past all the recent episodes of the Silicon Alley podcast, and towards the bottom, you can leave an honest rating and review. Your feedback is important to me, and positive ratings help others find the podcast. That's it for today. I'm William Glass, CEO and co-founder of Ostrich, and of course, your host of the Silicon Alley podcast. Have an impactful day.
You got no time to waste, but still you hesitate. Caught in a circle saying, I'll never leave this place.